we're cutting down some free agents here.
Oh,
And
man.
again, you want to sign a guy in March, June, July, or excuse me, May, June, July to a minimum vet, minimum deal. I'm not going to complain about that.
You like between commercial break, like you went in, you put on some like old clothes, like you're gonna get gross here. You're gonna get dirty.
I'm going to get real gross. And again, I'm going to say some things that probably offend some people, but let's put it back up on the screen, Damon Dog. If your name falls under Steve Keim and you were an outside linebacker acquired during his tenure, get off the team. Get off the team. There isn't a place for you on the team. That includes Dennis Gardeck, Duma Kaji. Jesse Lucchetta somehow has avoided this list because he's not a free agent yet. I would be
restricted
surprised.
Guy.
Yeah, we'll talk about him at a later date. Now, let's start with the low priority guys. Beachum, you got to move. If Jonah Williams is on crutches, get him on the medium to high. Get Kelvin Beachum on the phone and say, hey, Kelvin, nice 1-year deal. You're the starter at OTAs, and figure it out. Christian Jones, Kelvin Beachum, and a rookie, please. I think that's the way to go. It's not going to cost you very much. Beachum's fantastic. What a signing. We expected him to maybe be an afterthought. Turns out he was one of the few constants for this team. Tonga, interchangeable, Cologne, Aaron Brewer, like these guys. And then we get to Dennis Gardeck. And here's what I want to say about Dennis Gardeck. He is beloved, right? He's on the program. He's on the Jumbotron. But he is synonymous, in my opinion, fair or not, with a Cardinal front seven that gets pushed around, that can't rush the passer, that's considered soft by a lot of people. Can we evolve as a fan base and just say, I want more from my pass rush? I don't want to sit here and break down number 45 tape every year. I want more for this team. You guys remember what it looked like to watch Chandler Jones rush the passer? It was awesome. We need to get back to having those expectations. And the Cardinals, they let the fan base down last year with what they trotted out of pass rusher. And it's not Dennis's fault that he got hurt. Hell, it's not Dennis's fault that Steve Keim signed him to that contract and he was consistently viewed upon, well, he's making this money, he can be a contributor. Cardinals, I'm begging you, have higher standards for that position. Stop. Julian Okoro was probably the least productive edge rusher I've ever seen through 17 games. With the amount, sacks against whom? A backup to a backup tackle that the Niners signed off the Cardinals in heck? What the heck? Julian Okoro gets a sack. He's like, hey, there's my old buddy. We were on the streets together, practice squad streets together. The Cardinals, it's time to get serious. You think the Rams are doing this kind of thing? No, man. They're adding pass rushers first, second round every year. They're signing players. I'm going to tell you right now, with the season that the Niners just had, you don't think they're going to be aggressive? Everybody in your division is about to be aggressive. Seattle's trying to move off of Geno Smith. The Rams aren't going to be complacent. If the Cardinals are just like, we're going to run it back with this pass rush group featuring Duma Kaji and Jesse Lucchetta and Julian Okoro, we will continue to lose. This is a losing mentality. Get rid of them all. Put the list up one more time, Damon. Let's see it. Let's see this list. Prater, Pascal, Okoro, Duma Kaji, Gardeck, goodbye. Do better. Sign better players.
It's the devil you know versus the devil you don't know, right?
And I know him too well. Yeah, I see him every year.
It's those organizations you mentioned, like they don't, bring those guys back first and then ask questions later. Like they move on. They say, like, we know what we've got or what we don't have with some of these players, and we're just going to move on and we're just going to see what somebody else looks like in this position because we know that the floor here isn't very high. So I agree with you. It's time now after 2 seasons of really trying to Nick Rollis task with trying to do the most with not a lot, especially from the outside linebacker position. So it is well overdue. And if that would signal a changing of the guard from the Keim era, finally the Monty Austin-Ford era, as far as what that position is going to look like in the future, then fine. Rip that Band-Aid off. It's pretty easy. Matt Prater, 40 plus years old. You got a Pro Bowl alternate kicker under contract, and Chad Ryland. Thank you for your service, Matt Prater. Your made kicks and your missed kicks will not be forgotten in what it's done for this franchise. Mike Pilardi was just a guy who was filling a role for Blake Gillikin, who's under contract at the punting position the Cardinals really like. So teams, you're in a good spot. Zach Pascal, I think that if you want to find somebody that gives you an edge as far as a blocking wide receiver, I think you can look. You can look out there and find it either in the draft or in free agency. So, and then Zay Jones, I mean, he made an impact in the final game this season, but before that, there wasn't much of an impact to speak up for Zay Jones. So I think you get younger there. And then Duke McKay was on the roster the entire season and there was minimal impact. So I'm with you.
Everybody's asking us because it was omitted from this list because he didn't start the year with the Cardinals. Baron Browning is an impending free agent, Bo.
Yes.
And I think that deserves its own kind of segment conversation here. The Cardinals used a 6th-round pick to bring him from Denver. He played a lot. He had 2 sacks. He had no sacks before he got here. He was not the savior at pass rusher. This podcast pointed that out, and some of us were chastised for calling him just another rotational guy. Guess what? He ended up, that's what he was. I do think, though, anytime...
You're still humble.
The most humble. You remember those trade deadline streets were tough, man, on Twitter when it was like, hey, I don't think this guy's very good. What? Did you see his pass rush grade? Did you see his pressures? Oh, the guy who has no sacks. He's a step above a Jag, just a guy. He's a rotational player.
Yeah.
He's like a Gardeck, right? So it makes sense. They lose Gardeck. Let's get another one. I do think, speaking of Gardeck, though, Bo, he can be the new Dennis Gardeck. You bring him in, give him a contract. I think Austin Ford will have an incentive, Bo, after looking at Bidwell and saying, we brought that guy over. We like him. We're going to sign him. See, we didn't waste a draft pick bringing him over and not making the postseason.
Yeah.
Baron Browning, to me, you can sign him if you want in March, but that damn well better not be one of your big ticket signings, Monty Austin Ford.
Yeah, I don't know. What you would hope that his role is depth.
Yeah, he should be a backup.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're not gonna put many eggs back in the BJ Ojulari basket until he proves you that he can stay healthy. And then you hope that there's gonna be upgrades in free agency in the draft that will help, strengthen that position, to put it in a position that hasn't been in far too long. Baron Browning, like, you're going to be honest with the guy and say, like, hey, you can have a role in this team, but like it could be minimal when it's all once we get to the training camp. Give him an option to walk, and if Cardinals fans should be prepared, like that's a reality.
Yeah, I see people online that are like, he's going to start. Zaven Collins is going to be a backup. Zaven Collins has more sacks than Baron Browning. Baron Browning, who everybody tells me can get after the quarterback. Like, why does Zaven have 5 sacks and Baron Browning has 2 sacks on the year? I know it's not all apples and oranges.